I'm Realtor Deb Tomorrow, and this is At Home in Bloomington, brought to you by Karen Russell, Ruoff Home Mortgage. We profile the people, places, and resources that make Bloomington, Bloomington, and help you live your best life. At Home in Bloomington. Hello, and welcome to At Home in Bloomington. I'm your host, Realtor Deb Tomorrow, joined, as usual, by Miss Karen Russell, best-time lender in the state of Indiana. Hello.
Hey, Deb.
How are you doing?
I'm good. Coming off of spring break.
I know. I feel like we need to, because people could be listening to this show at any point in time at all, that it's March. I always have to look at my computer. It's March 19th. Mm-hmm. So we're just coming off of spring break and at the height of spring selling season.
Yes.
So you and I are both kind of like, because I'm like, okay, I got to be done right at 4 o'clock because I got to be out of here because I got to be, it's just one of those days where everything's back to back. So, but it's nice to take this little break for an hour or so and do this show and meet people. And we are talking to a guest today that you don't know who it is.
No.
You don't know what she does.
No clue.
So I told you before we started that I was going to put you on the spot.
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay. So you, I feel, have an announcement to make that happened sometime in January that you're like, I'm Kate Middleton and I don't need to make announcements, or who's a famous person?
You mean like put something on social media that actually makes it like legit, like it's official?
It makes it official, right? Who was it? There was somebody famous. I want to say Eva Mendes, but I don't think that's true. That like had babies and didn't like really tell anyone. Like these people, we can have a baby.
No, let's make that clear.
So
I did not have a baby.
I'm going to put you on the spot now and ask you to please make your official announcement.
Okay. So on January 2nd, my family and I rescued a beagle puppy. She's super cute. My son Jack had named her Rose. And I haven't made it Facebook official, Instagram official. I haven't done any of that on social media.
Or At Home in Bloomington official.
Or At Home in Bloomington, exactly. I don't know why. I think I was just kind of making sure, because this is my first pet.
Right.
Ever.
So, and the reason this is a big deal to me is because we've now turned you into a dog person. I think you texted me over the weekend and said I'm one of those people that's like sending more pictures of my dogs to people who don't care.
No, I just like sent you like a random update on my dog and you didn't even ask me. I was just like, oh, she'll want to know this. Here it is.
So, and I do appreciate that. And we all know I'm a dog person too. And so we welcome Emily Herr, who is outreach coordinator and a bunch of other titles for the Bloomington Animal Shelter, as well as owner of Bloomington, I'm going to get this wrong, Bloomington Canine Services, which is a training organization. See?
Awesome. See, well, that wasn't as bad. When you said, I'm going to put you on the spot, I thought, oh my gosh. All right, here we go. Starting to sweat. But
right? I hope my mother doesn't listen to this, right? So welcome, Emily. And I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the shelter, but then I also want to talk about the training because I have lots of questions. I have 3 little dogs that are as cute as can be and horribly behaved, and we let them get away with it because they're so cute.
Right.
And I think that's probably an epidemic. So we're going to talk about that in the second segment of the show. I want to talk about, what should we expect from our dogs and, how you kind of get over that. Because your dog, Rose, was incredibly cute and tiny.
She was super
cute and
tiny.
You had to do some pretty hardcore training with her.
Yes.
To get her so that you all understood. And I get that. I had to do that with some dogs once that I sent them away for like 10 days for hardcore training and was heartbreaking. But in the end, we ended up learning how to communicate with each other, and it was really wonderful. I mean, it was amazing. So anyways, we're going to get to that. Gosh, I get ahead of myself. This show's not going to make any sense because I started talking about dogs and I just, go all over the place. So obviously the shelter serves a number of purposes. What's your role within the shelter?
Well, I like to call my job everything but the kitchen sink. I'm one of 4 managers at the shelter, and all of us help in every aspect of sheltering. We're not only the local animal shelter, but we also are animal care and control, so we enforce local ordinances. We pick up stray animals. We offer assistance to the members of our community. So it's a very multifaceted organization, and there's a lot going on. My role is outreach coordinator and behavior consultant. I do a lot of intermingling with community members, businesses. I do all of our promotions and events, but I also do behavior work with the animals in our shelter. And then I also do the outreach behavior aspect, which is helping people who have adopted from us with behavior issues they're having in the home.
And I think that is something that I didn't realize the shelter offered, was that you're working on making sure that the animals are adoptable. Yes. And sometimes they have issues and they need to kind of work through them like humans. But then also you're providing ongoing support, and you're probably also providing support to maybe even people who are thinking about relinquishing their dog.
Yes. My goal as a person working in the shelter is to keep animals out of the shelter.
Yep.
So we want to offer behavior support. We want to, give people resources within our community to keep their animals at home with them.
And so if someone let's start with that. So keeping animals at home, what would someone do? What does that look like? How do they
There are
reach
a lot
out?
of people that, just might be suffering financially for a brief moment in time, and they need assistance with food. They need medical assistance. There's the Monroe County Humane Association. They have a food bank program. They offer low-cost vaccinations, medical care. There's a lot of different resources in Bloomington that people just are not aware of. And if there's something we can do to help keep their animal in home, we're going to, kind of fast-track them to those organizations.
Yeah, and I think that, like you said, that a lot of people aren't aware of them. First of all, I think a lot of people aren't aware that the Humane Association is separate from the animal shelter.
Yes.
They're two separate organizations, although you're housed right next to each other
We
or
are
nearby.
In the same building in one of their locations.
Okay.
They also have a location in Ellettsville, which serves as their minor medical clinic.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't realize that at that medical clinic, they have a sliding scale.
Yes.
If you receive any type of government assistance, which includes Medicare or student loans even, if you bring in proof of that, then you get $10 office visits and things like that. It's an amazing resource.
Very, very affordable.
Yeah, and so we definitely want to make sure that people are aware of that. Okay, so if someone has that kind of issue, they can reach out to the shelter, and you're certainly a great resource for resources. I also know, so I'm just going to get off board on all these like resources, but like if you're an older person, or if you know someone who's an older person, Area 10 Agency on Aging has resources for food and things like that as well. What if they're having more of the behavior issues?
There are a couple things that we can do. Sometimes we have people come into the shelter and they can sit down with me and we can kind of come up with a behavior plan. I do a lot of over the phone consulting. I do a lot of email consulting. And then we refer people out to trainers too.
Oh, okay. So now you've got an animal in the shelter. How do you help that animal become more adoptable? One of the things when I adopted a dog from a shelter a long time ago, we kind of laughed because we met her in the shelter. I had to go in with blinders on because I would take every dog home. So I made my husband at the time go in and pick out a dog, and then they just like blindfolded me and took me back to a room and brought the dog in. Yeah, because I was like, I can't. And she was so sweet. This was Cleo. She was so sweet and just snuggly and, and whatever. And then, like, the second we walked out the door, she's like, vroom, vroom, just like gone, like, running and high energy and whatever. She was still a very sweet dog. But dogs are very different in a kennel. Cats probably are too. I'm not a cat person, so I feel like I can't really speak to cat behaviors because they're all a mystery to me. But they're very different in the shelter than they are when they get out.
Yes, they are. Every animal is an individual, so we focus on the animal as an individual to help them through a behavior plan. We do enrichment every day for every animal at the shelter. We know that we are seeing them at the worst of their lives, and we need to help them graduate from that. So there are various things that we do. I have a behavior intern, and she works on training. We work on that together. We look at each dog and say, okay, this dog needs more experience doing this. It needs work on not jumping. And, it's a
so you have a care plan for
absolutely.
each animal.
We treat behavior as it was a medical.
Wow. Is that normal for shelters? Do you know? No.
Not.
I know that, and I'm going to talk a little bit later about a nonprofit that I'm involved in. And so I'm learning a lot more about shelters and realizing that what we have going on here in Monroe County is pretty special. Yes. And I want people to recognize that and appreciate that for sure. So that's amazing. I know there was a story. Has it been a few years now with Zeus?
It's not even been a year.
Oh, okay. Well, I was doing some research and I came across that story, and then Rachel sent it to me this morning as well, that Zeus was one of those dogs that sort of had some behavior issues. And what were the kinds of things that you did to work with him?
A whole lot. Gosh, we did so much with him. He was not well socialized before he came to the shelter. I don't think he ever left the house he was born in. So he did not have all these experiences that a lot of dogs do, and then coming into a shelter environment, it was like a complete shock to his system. So what I did specifically with him was just love him as best as I could. Yeah. And I brought him into my office, and he became my office dog. He went to lunch with me. He went to meetings with me. You know, he just kind of learned what the outside world was like, and he had to get adopted a few times and have some more experiences, and then eventually he found his perfect family. But it took us a while.
Yeah, that's just amazing that I guess that you have the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, I think since this is the first time in my entire life, so in 45 years, this is the first time I've had an animal at home. In my mind, I would just think the shelter is wherever the animals come from. You know, I didn't know that anything was being done to help kind of get them ready for adoption, but that you would just go and you would pick out one to rescue, and then you're kind of like sign your papers, make a donation, or however it works, and then you're done and you go home. But having this puppy now, I would think, oh my gosh, if I didn't have something like that, like what you're offering, and you're working with these animals, I would bring them back. I would probably end up bringing the dog back. I really would, because I would have no idea how to even start with something like that.
Yeah, I mean, certainly we've seen there's people that think it's not that big a deal, and it really is a huge commitment. That, you know, but they make them so cute, and so then you're like, okay, I'll take them, and deceiving. Then, you know, right? It's like babies. It's kind of cruel. Like, why are they cute?
I know.
If they made babies ugly, that's a true test of parental love. That's what I'm saying. Yes, the only
reason we were supposed to get an older dog.
Right.
And then Deb sends me a picture over Christmas time, and we're not here, and says, what about this one? And she was like,
no. What I said was, how set are you on an older dog?
Yeah, you were like, is a puppy out of the question? And I respond like, okay.
It was a Christmas gift, and they couldn't keep her, and they just took her back to a vet office and dropped her off, basically. So we were trying to
I said, okay, I'll show my husband. And I didn't. He goes, get more information on that dog. And I was like, what? And then now here we are.
Such a cute puppy.
So what are the biggest needs of the shelter in terms of things that our listeners can do?
It's hard to say. We always use blankets and towels and toys. Yeah. I love to get used toys from people, because just something new for a dog to do on any day of the week is going to be such an improvement for them. Treats are always a great thing to do. Of course, we love volunteers coming down to spend actual time with our animals. And if you can't commit to a regular volunteership, just coming down to the shelter and spending time.
You can just show up.
Yeah, just
and say, can I come pet some cats or dogs or whatever?
Absolutely.
And then they'll all go home with me. Yeah, I can't do that.
Plan.
There's another story I should share. Full disclosure, right?
Okay.
I don't have any memory of this, but if you call my mother, and I'll give you her phone number, she'd love to talk with you. She'll tell you that when I was in preschool, my preschool went to like a shelter, or maybe it was up in Indy, so maybe the Humane Association or something, and I was hysterical. I cried the whole time. I couldn't handle it. Oh. I felt so bad for like all the animals that were there. They had to take me out.
I could see that.
Yeah. So I was a little worried about the show and wondering if I could get through it and not cry too much, because,
we can do it.
Oh my gosh, I just get so emotional. But anyways, so definitely get involved. Volunteering. I know that clean out your linen closets, right? And there's always, that's what we keep saying. We need to clean out our linen closet. I'm like, oh, we can just take it all to the animal shelter. A lot of times too, if you've got a dog that's outgrown something, like if you've got some little tiny collars that Rose doesn't fit into anymore.
I was just thinking that when she said even use toys, because in the month she's been in her obedience training, she's outgrown some of these little puppy toys that I felt that I only got because I'm like, oh, she's so small. It's cute. And I'm like, no, she's outgrown that.
Right. Yeah. I know I have some too that we had another dog. So we had 4 dogs over spring break, and they set a bunch of toys with Toby and the 4th dog and said, oh, he doesn't play with those anymore. So I should probably just, my dogs don't need them. They have so many toys. It's ridiculous. But okay. So anything else that you want to stress to people as they're contemplating picking out a shelter pet?
Don't always go for the cute puppy. But take your time. You don't have to come to the shelter and immediately find, or hope to find someone as soon as you walk in the door. It's a personality match. It's a lifestyle match. We're there to assist you in finding the right match. And it might not happen the first day you walk in, and there are oodles of other shelters in this area. Not in Monroe County, but outside of this county. And all of those shelters need support as well. Great. So if you don't find something at our shelter, I can guarantee you'll find it at another shelter.
Would you also talk with someone like myself? If I would have went in there, I have no idea about I think the idea of taking care of a dog, I could handle that in my mind, but I have no idea exactly what that entails. Is someone there, I guess, to kind of help answer all those questions? I really am interested in adopting, but I don't even know what all that means as far as how much time this will really take. Right. Or, I didn't know that puppies are like babies and that they have to go outside every couple hours. I learned that the first night. Right. And, things like that. Just
and then my name was cursed.
Just to be prepared for, make sure that this is a commitment that you're wanting to make.
Yes. And we want to make sure people are as prepared as possible. So before adoption, there is an adoption counseling, and we sit down and we hammer out all the questions. We answer all the questions that we can, and vice versa. And, again, it's about, is this the right fit? And sometimes we say, we think maybe an older dog or an older cat might be better for you. And, we certainly try to steer people. We can't tell people what to do, but we can give them guidance and suggestions and hope that they agree.
And I know that they, like we said in the beginning, you're very focused on making sure that doing everything you can to keep the animal from coming back. Yes. I know one of the things, one of my tenants moved in, and then I gave him permission to get cats or a cat, and then he went to the shelter and found 2 brothers, and they were adamant that they had to talk to me on the phone as the landlord to make sure that I was okay with this, and I really appreciated that because I think in this town with all the rentals, that's a huge thing too.
Absolutely, and that is one of the leading reasons for relinquishment is landlord wouldn't allow. So we want to, on our end, follow through as best as we can to make sure that that's not going to be an issue in the immediate future.
Right. Awesome. All right. Well, when we come back, we're going to talk about your superpower, which is dog training. And I want to hear a little bit about how you learned to do that, because I don't have the patience. I'm always amazed. But then also what services you offer and what that looks like. I'm going to speak from personal experience because I could probably take advantage of some of it for sure. So stick around. You're at home in Bloomington.
Hi, this is Karen Rastel with Ruoff Home Mortgage. Did you know there are down payment assistance programs for first-time buyers? A first-time buyer is defined as having no home ownership in the last 3 years. These income-based programs may help buyers with down payment or closing cost assistance. For additional details, contact me today at 812-606-7653. Ruoff Home Mortgage is an Indiana corporation licensed by the Indiana Department of Financial Institutions. This is not an offer for extension of credit or a commitment to lend. All loans must satisfy company underwriting guidelines. Equal housing lender. NMLS number 141868.
This is your Real Estate Realist. Practical advice on buying and selling real estate based on my experience closing over 800 home sales. As the real estate market has been turning from a stable market to a seller's market, Sellers have lost their ability to easily make the transition from one home to the next. A seller's market is great when you are a seller, but when you are also a buyer, it can be brutal. I've seen buyers try over and over to make offers contingent on the sale of their current home, oftentimes a home that isn't even on the market yet, and those offers lead to heartbreak as they lose out on house after house. So is all hope lost? Of course not. Here are some things to think about. First of all, 9 times out of 10, at least, your timing isn't going to be perfect, and it's not all going to fit neatly into the exact time frame you want. Be open to the mess and chaos. It will be uncomfortable, but it won't kill you. Number 2, wrap your head and hands around the fact that it's going to be some work. You may have to rent short term. You may have to take some sort of risk, whether that's buying before selling or risking your relationship with your in-laws as you live in their basement for a few weeks. To get what you really want, your dream home, you are going to have to be smart, willing to put out some effort, and probably take a risk. Number 3, have a plan A, B, and maybe even a plan C. I tell my clients that we're going to give it everything we've got to make the timing work out perfectly, but there's a good chance it won't. So having multiple other options or plans can go a long way to keeping your sanity. Number 4, if you are stalking Zillow at night when you can't sleep, but haven't even talked to a lender or realtor, you are destined for disappointment. If you think you might want to make the transition to a new home in the next year or two, get started now. The more prep you do up front, the smoother the process will be. For more information on how to make the transition from one home to the next, check out my Real Estate Today podcast, episode 16. You can find it on YouTube, iTunes, and my website, www.athomeinbloomington.com.
My name is John Lee. Deb Tomorrow is my realtor. She has helped my wife and I sell 2 homes and purchase another. She's a smart, outside-the-box thinker and truly cares about her clients. Deb makes the complex world of buying and selling homes seem easy, which is a testament to her knowledge and skill. Long story short, Deb should be your realtor too. And now, back to the show.
All right, welcome back to At Home in Bloomington. I'm your host, Realtor Deb Tomorrow. Before we get back to Emily Herr at Bloomington Canine Services, our Facebook follow this week is a little bit selfish, and that is a nonprofit that I'm involved with called Silver Linings Rescue. You can find us on Facebook. We're focused on senior pets, dogs, and cats, and trying to keep them out of shelters or get them out of shelters. We like to say that a shelter should never be a pet's last stop. And so it's been interesting because we've really been focusing recently on helping senior people keep their senior pets in their homes with them and providing necessary support. We're finding out that there are issues when people go into the hospital or to rehab and they don't have a plan in place. And if an EMT goes to pick somebody up, they don't know what they're supposed to do with it. They don't have really an obligation to do anything with the pet. So we're trying to kind of get the word out that we're a resource and that will help with our network of fosters and that kind of thing. So check us out, Silver Linings Rescue, on Facebook, and I'm sure that we'll talk about that even more. But we've got some success stories and cute pictures of dogs. Yes. Can't go wrong with that, right? Yeah, exactly. All right. So your other side gig, which is probably another full-time gig, is Bloomington Canine Services. And so how would you describe that?
It's a in-home training service that I offer to anyone, really. I do travel outside of Monroe County, but right now I'm mostly working in Monroe County. I also work with other shelters and help them develop programming.
Oh, nice. So Monroe County Shelter, Bloomington Shelter is sort of becoming a model for maybe some of these other shelters.
Yeah. I like to network with people, and the animal welfare world is very, very vast.
Yes.
And we can all learn from each other.
Absolutely.
So we kind of have this secret alliance that we just, we all want to help each other. And if, I need something from another shelter, there's a lot of networking going back and forth and vice versa. Yeah. So I like to go to other shelters and help them implement new programs to help the animals within their buildings too.
Great. And then even on a national level, one of the things we didn't talk about is, when there are some natural disasters, pets are always extremely affected. lots of homeless pets or pets that have been left behind. I know you're part of a network of shelters that will take those in. Yes. They'll bring animals up from Florida after a hurricane or that kind of thing.
Yeah, we're partners with HSUS and ASPCA, so we are listed as hubs.
Okay.
So we have taken in many animals over the years that come from natural disasters.
Awesome. So let's talk about training, because I have questions. What should we expect from our dogs? What kind of behavior?
I like to think of this as a dance, and there always has to be one person in the lead. If that person's fumbling over their feet, then the person they're dancing with is going to fall over too.
Yeah.
So you have to be the guiding, not necessarily force, but maybe a guiding light in this animal's life. We want to set an example. We want them to have clear expectations of what's expected of them. And it's really like nothing in life is free. We want animals to not necessarily have to work for every single thing that they do. But, I expect my dog to sit when it walks up to me. I expect my dog to sit before we walk out the door. Mm-hmm. Having that kind of guidance and expectations makes that dog extremely happy, and they thrive knowing what is expected of them.
Yeah, and I'm so disappointed in myself because I know that, because I've seen that with my previous dogs. They went to training, it came back, and it was a whole new relationship. I mean, I just felt like I could communicate with them, and I knew what they wanted, they knew what I wanted, and everybody was much happier. And then I get these cute little puppies, and I'm like, if they need to go over there, I'll just pick them up and put them over there.
You do have cute little puppies that you could just scoop up. I know. I could see where that would.
But so that's a question. I mean, should we be expecting that from cute little dogs too?
Absolutely. See? Absolutely. It's in this.
I need help.
In our current puppy climate, it is. A lot of people do forgive the cute, fluffy little dogs. But we see those cute, fluffy little dogs come into the shelter a lot, and they're harder to adopt. Yeah. Because they haven't had that guidance.
Right. And, my older one, so I have two brothers that are almost 4. And then I have an 11-year-old that we got a couple of years ago when his father went into a nursing home. And he was a shelter dog several times. And he's just the sweetest thing ever. But he's very clingy, and so he was in a home, and they didn't want a clingy dog. Because he identifies one person, and that's
Velcro dog.
Yeah, and so that's why they took him back. And I thought, why would you do that?
Right.
I like people worshiping me. I don't know. It works perfectly fine with me. But he does that in our house too, and I'm sure he did that in the previous house. So, so you're right. I mean, he was adorable. He is adorable. But even the cute ones can end up back in the shelter. So it is really, really important.
It is, and
I'm a horrible pet parent. Oh my God.
No. It's important to be realistic in training too, and I like to customize training. I don't do just one single thing every time I go to a new client's house. I want to do what's going to work best for that lifestyle, that home. If someone wants to carry their dog, they're going to carry their dog.
Right.
But we can, work on specific cues to, guide the dog in different ways.
That's good to know.
Anything is manageable.
I mean, is some of it too kind of what I've always been fascinated by the fact that dog breeds really are unique. And so I imagine that there is some training that, some dogs need more stimulation because they're herding dogs or whatever. And you have to find, beagles, they need something to do.
Yes, they do.
Right. And so because they want to work. And so you got to give them a job. I know that I have Springer Spaniel mix, and that was like, I had to give them a job. Yeah. My puppies, they probably don't care if they need a job or not. They'll probably have a YouTube channel.
A lot of it is, breed related, but even individual animals of a breed are going to be different.
Yeah.
I think our biggest thing when we brought Rose home, and we got the leash and we got the collar, we did all that stuff, and then we go out for a walk, and then she darts off, and we're like, I felt like I was in a tug of war with a massive fish. You know what I mean? Like you're fishing and you got your pole.
You're reeling her in. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, man, she's just taken off. And in my head, I thought, what if this snaps and then she's off? But we were like hoping that, you know, with training, when we go out for a walk in the neighborhood, and like you were mentioning, like you want your dog to sit before you go out the door, things like that. Like it would make for a more pleasurable walk in the neighborhood, because then I won't have to worry about like if neighbors or other people want to come up and meet her, if she's wanting to jump all over them or kind of take off because she smells something that other direction. I don't know. So it was quite funny to see us trying to walk in the snow and during that weather.
And, you know, a lot of people don't think about what has this dog specifically been acclimated to. Like, we'll put a leash on a dog at the shelter that has never even seen a leash before, and they just lay down or they alligator roll, and you have to, you know, counter condition them essentially to just wearing a leash. You know, it's we kind of have these high expectations of your dog. You walk on a leash, you go in a crate, but really, like, we need to be taking more steps to acclimate them, to help them, you know, this is our world and these are tools we've created for them. So
do you think that there is there's an age limit for an animal to learn how to do things? Because I was sitting there thinking, you know how like with young kids, like we were just talking about, I think before we started recording, about foreign language and things. And, you know, they always say it's easier to learn something like that at a younger age. Like I know right now, I could never learn, I mean, I'm saying that I would never learn another language. And I was thinking about that with animals. Like, is it ever too late to get, you know, to train that animal?
No, and it's never too early or too late.
Okay, because Albert's 11, so that's... It's
all about finding their motive. What are they going to work for? They get to decide what their, like, pot of gold is.
Okay.
So it's not, you know, this dry, crumbled treat that we found. Like, it might be turkey or ham or something. It's they decide what their motive is.
Awesome.
We just have to work with it.
So how did you learn to do what you do? Because you're certified, right?
Yes.
And who certifies you?
I am certified through the Animal Behavior College.
Okay.
I'm a certified professional dog trainer.
Okay.
But I have been working with animals for the past 15 years. I've been working at the shelter for 12 years now. Most of my experience comes from working within the shelter.
Okay.
I've traveled all over to go to conferences and hear different behaviorists speak, and kind of a knowledge junkie. Like any new book that comes out about training, I'm reading it.
So is Cesar Millan, what is his name, the dog whisperer, is he legit?
He is not on my list of people.
Okay. You wonder because you see it on TV and you just think
that answers that.
He goes like this. He goes, psst, and then the dog does like sits down, and I'm like, I don't think it works that easy. But so, what are the first things if you were to meet someone calls you up and says, I can handle this dog, I need help? What do you do from there?
We normally have about a 15-minute phone consultation to see what is this dog doing exactly? What have you tried? And then I normally go to their house. And again, we have that conversation because it is different for me to see what the dog is doing than hear about it on the phone. And then we talk about what their specific goals are, what they want their dog to do as an alternative behavior, because every negative behavior needs to have an alternative behavior. So we talk about those things, and then we normally get through about 30 to 45 minutes of actual like obedience training / problem solving. And then we'll set up more appointments down the road. But it's kind of, the first is just basically a consultation, and here are these tools to start working with.
I know I had I'm not going to name names, but I had a trainer come to my house once because when we introduced Albert, he was 9. And it changes the dynamic when you introduce another dog. And so we had 2 that had been together their entire lives from the womb. And then, we throw this other one in who's got baggage galore because he's been in 4 or 5 homes. And so I had a trainer come over, and she was just like, oh, yeah, you need to put a gate up so that they won't run out the door, because we were concerned about just being able to control them and be able to go in and out the door and not have them run out and that kind of thing. And that was pretty much it. And that's where I learned the whole, they're cute. So, just go with it. So I don't know. I may be re-inspired. how is your training different? There's different kinds of training. I've done boot camps with dogs before where they kind of go away for 10 days. I did a PetSmart class with a dog my dog, his name was Erie, 20 years ago. And if we lived in PetSmart, he would be the best behaved dog ever.
Yes.
Because he is really good in PetSmart.
Yeah, that happens. Dogs don't generalize behaviors, so they learn it in one room and they might go to the other room and have no idea.
Yeah.
So it's important to go different places.
Right. And I guess that's part of why doing it in home would be good as well.
Yeah. And that's, when we're talking about behavior problems, it's in the home most of the time. Sometimes it's on a walk, but it's still with that person. So it helps to have training that happens in your home so that you can really nail down every problem that you're running into.
And I know even when I did the boot camp, doing the follow-up was really important. Right. And I know, Karen, you're kind of going through that right now as well. And I assume, my guess is that's probably the number one reason why dog training can fail.
I mean, a lot of it is, you have homuwork to do every day. So
how much time? So if somebody says, I need my dogs trained, how much time should someone expect to have to put in? I think this is a great question for someone considering getting a dog. Because I think had they said to you, Karen, with a puppy, you need to expect to spend X number of, minutes a day training, it would have changed your vision.
It would have, and I didn't even know to even ask that kind of question. Sure. You know what I mean? I went in blind. But and that was the main reason we ended up getting a trainer, because I was feeling like I was crying at night going, okay, we don't have the time to be spending.
Or the knowledge or the know-how.
Yeah, and I feel horrible because I want this to be pleasurable, and my youngest son wanted a dog for so long, and here we were at this point, and like I'm tearful every night. But
it depends on what the specific needs and requests are. But I'm working with a 3-month-old mini Aussie puppy right now, and
there's energy,
tons of energy.
Yeah,
she's really cute. But I tell her owners to plan to spend 5 minutes a day, 5 times a day, going over these specific targeted behaviors that we've been working on.
Right.
But they are also expected to have the same ground rules throughout the day.
Okay.
So and for her, it's going to take us, a few more sessions because we haven't covered all the cues and behaviors that we want to. But she'll probably be in training for 6 months with me. Okay.
Once a week with you, and then And are the pet parents always involved in that training session as well?
Yes.
Okay.
I show them what to do, and then they do it, and then we critique and we do some fine tuning.
Gotcha. So, what is the one thing that we can all do to make our dogs and ourselves happier?
Know what you're capable of, and don't expect your dog to, fully understand what you're asking them if you haven't taught it to them. They need to have guidance.
Yeah. So when I'm yelling at them because they won't come inside, they don't know what I want.
They don't know what you want. And you've probably said it so many times that word is washed out. They don't even hear you say it anymore.
Right. The get down.
Yeah. It's, when you're talking to your kids, and I could be telling my daughter something and I'm saying her name a million times and she's still sitting on her floor brushing her pony's hair.
Right.
It's the same thing with dogs.
I will say that was probably the number one takeaway at this training that we were getting, because when Rose would do something, a behavior that we did not want her to do, my first reaction was to yell out her name, like as a way to stop.
I'd call her attention to her.
Yeah, so I would yell like, Rose, no, or whatever. And what we were taught was she's, have her name be something that's happy, or, have that connotation with her name. So then she's going to recognize that that's her name, and not necessarily, because all the dog's going to know is that, we're mad or we're angry with her, or that, I don't know. I'm not
in my
articulating.
House, Oliver!
Yeah. And so I was I've been correcting myself because I started to see her and I was like, and I stopped. I was like, Rose, please don't do it, or whatever. Yeah, I was like, don't do that.
Right. But. Interesting. Okay. Well, how can people get in touch with you for training?
I have a website, which is bloomingtoncanineservices.com. And then my email address is emily@bloomingtoncanineservices.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope we didn't hijack the show too much with our talk of, dog people. We get together and we're just like, nonstop with dogs. But I think it is really valuable. I think it's something that, I personally need to deal with. I think that having a pet is an amazing thing, and it can add so much positive to your life. But you have to sort of have the right systems set up. And everybody needs, it's just like any other relationship. Everybody needs to be able to communicate with each other. And it's not just for the selfish good of the human, but it's also for the pets. I've seen it. They're happier when they're, meeting your expectations. Just like everyone. Not that different. All right. We'll be back with another episode. Thanks for listening. You're at home in Bloomington.
Got a show idea? I'd love to hear it. And be sure to contact me for all your real estate needs and questions too. You can email me at deb@realrealestatetoday.com and follow me on Facebook at Deb Tomorrow Realtor. To contact Karen Rastel for all your mortgage needs, call 812-606-7653 or log on to ruoff.com and go to the Bloomington Center. Thanks to all the Bloomington people who make production of At Home in Bloomington possible. Special thanks to superstar producer Rachel Gregorio, digital guru Cynthia Hogan at Monster Digital Marketing for website design and hosting, and video genius Wes Lasher in the production house for engineering the show.